you got?
I'm ready.
What day is it?
Draft day.
I said, what day is it?
Draft day.
I said, what day is it?
Draft day.
I said, what day is it?
Draft day.
Who we talking about?
Njoku.
Njoku. Njoku. Njoku. Njoku. Trubisky. 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 Mel Kiper.
Mel Kiper.
Mel Kiper.
John Gruden. Mel Kiper. John Gruden. Mel Kiper. John Gruden. Mel Kiper. John Gruden.
What is going on, New York Giants fans? Well, it's draft day, so how could you not be excited? I'm excited. I'm going to be partying with Jet fans, so I made a bet with Mage of Clapback Sports. And Tony Clark, one of our viewers, shout out to Tony, who's a Texans fan, that if the Giants picked Evan Neal at 5 or 7, I would shotgun a beer, and then I would videotape myself walking out if we selected a quarterback, wide receiver, or some position that I really don't want. But it's draft day. It's going to be interesting to see what this New York Giants team does and where they go in terms of the direction. This mock draft is the final New York Giants mock draft, and I'm just going to say in advance, I apologize for not putting out consistent content in terms of the draft. I know I was very late with the countdown of the draft stuff, and then it wasn't necessarily the most pure and clean. It was a little inconsistent there, but I apologize. This is the final mock draft, and this is not just, what I want. I feel like this is where the team's going to go in terms of direction. Some of these guys the New York Giants have had visits with. They've gone to their pro days, and some of these guys I just feel like would be a fit for the New York Giants. So with that being said, let's get right into it. The New York Giants, with the 5th pick, will select Sauce Gardner, defensive back, out of Cincinnati. We all know who Sauce Gardner is. Last year for the Cincinnati Bearcats, he had 5 tackles for a loss, 40 tackles overall, 3 interceptions, and 3 sacks. So he's versatile. He could blitz. And for the New York Giants, if they are moving on from James Bradbury, they need a man corner. They need a cover corner. And I'm starting to buy into it more now. And at the beginning of the offseason, you really couldn't convince me that the Giants needed a corner because, oh my God, again, we need a corner. And the Eli Apple vibes started coming back. So did the Prince of Mukamara vibes and the Jeff Okudah vibes. But with that being said, there's a lot of corners that have worked out in the top 10. Denzel Ward. There's a lot of guys you can compare Sauce Gardner to. He's just a great overall player. And honestly, he fits this Wink defense. This is why he's a Giants pick for me, because I see it happening. I think they're in love with Sauce. It's been a thing for weeks now, and he just fits Wink's defense and what the Giants want to do. And you really see the NFL going towards more cornerbacks and drafting more and signing more cornerbacks rather than getting, these top-tier pass rushers. That's what I feel the NFL future is leaning to. That's my personal opinion. But Sauce Gardner is 6'3", 190. His strengths, he surrenders tiny cushion and sticks to wide receivers like glue. He dominates smaller receivers with his big size at 6'3". Consistent motor that helps him move sideline to sideline. He's great in press man coverage, which is perfect for the New York Giants. He's got great skills and able to locate the ball in the air. As a cornerback, you need to be aware, and it's great to have eyes on the man that you're covering, but you want to be able to turn around and just have the intangibles to get that ball, whether it's looking and grabbing with one hand or grabbing with 2 hands, whatever. That's why he had 3 interceptions this past season. If I got that right, I'm pretty sure it's 3 interceptions. Yeah, 3 interceptions, 3 sacks, 4 pass deflections. He's a tough tackler, and obviously you need corners that can tackle. Has not allowed a touchdown, a passer rating of 32.6 in college. Very good. And is it the best competition? No. Is it competition like Derek Stingley faced the last few years? No. But it's not, Wyoming competition or UMass competition. It's mid-level competition. They faced Notre Dame. They faced a couple other teams. They also faced Alabama in the college football playoff, so it's not like they faced a bunch of nobodies. He can also play in the box. Once again, I mentioned the 3 sacks and 5 tackles for loss. Weaknesses, he can be a bit grabby. Obviously, that could be coached out. Jerome Henderson has done a wonderful job the last few years coaching defensive backs, especially for the New York Giants. Strictly a man coverage corner, little experience in zone coverage, and the Giants don't run zone. So if he was going to go to the Jets, there'd be a little growing pains there. If he went to another team, there'd be growing pains. But in terms of the New York Giants, he's a good fit. Has trouble getting off blocks. I mean, obviously you want your cornerbacks to be expendable in the running game and to get off blocks and make tackles and tackle the ball carrier. That's something he could work on. His back pedal and speed could put him in bad spots in which he could get burned by his speedster. And I don't know that that's necessarily going to be a problem because we talked about this when Adoree Jackson signed with the New York Giants, is he could catch up. You know, he's fast. He could catch up with the Tyreek Hills of the world and all these speedster burner wide receivers. So, and you're really not looking, maybe in terms of expectations, maybe some are, maybe some aren't. You're not looking for Sauce Gardner to be that number one corner right away. He's going to have some growing pains. And overall, you know, the footwork, I almost mumbled that. The footwork does need some work. But overall, Giants select Sauce Gardner at 5. I don't have any trades here. I'm just going to tell you guys that right now. The value for trades is extremely hard to predict, and I don't like putting it in anyways. The Giants select Charles Cross with their 7th pick, offensive tackle out of Mississippi State. He's 6'5", he's 307. Some NFL comps, and I sometimes take the comps from the NFL Network. Taylor Moton, I could see that in Tristan Wirfs. I feel like Tristan Wirfs has a little bit more weight added to him, but it is what it is. So I have mixed feelings about Charles Cross. He is athletic. He's patient in pass protection. He has better results than technique-wise. He does need to work on some technical stuff. When he's beat, he does counter well. Once his hands are on you, they don't come off. He's good at mirroring. In terms of the weaknesses, he doesn't have above average strength, so the bull rush he could be very susceptible to. Tends to open his hips prematurely and doesn't punch with his hands, more of a catch. And that's something we saw with Matt Parrott, where he struggled at times due to a lot of things and, you know, just not getting on the field. But also he would rather catch than punch. And you want to punch and just keep your hands there rather than catching because, boom, if a good pass rusher just slams your hands down off of his body, it's going to be trouble. With that being said, not a huge ton of run reps. Obviously, Mississippi State was more of a passing offense than it was a running offense, and that's what honestly could worry me if we try to incorporate a little more of the running game than Buffalo did in the last few years. Obviously, Brian Daboll being from Buffalo, but he could honestly fit what the New York Giants want to do, and he is probably the most pro-ready pass-blocking tackle. Ekwonu will struggle, Evan Neal will struggle, but despite Evan Neal being, in my opinion, one of the best players in this draft and my favorite player in this draft, Charles Cross is probably the most pro-ready pass-blocking tackle. Now, here are my thoughts on him just overall. He's a solid left tackle. He's not as violent as Ike Ekwonu. In my opinion, he's not necessarily the right fit. And you need a tackle in this class. You need a right tackle. And the Giants, if they have to take Charles Cross at 7 overall, take him. If Ike's off the board, if Evan Neal's off the board, don't go after Penning. Don't try to take a second-round guy and hope he turns out for the best. And I understand, you know, there's more than the first round to go after offensive linemen, especially tackles. But with that being said, the Giants just need it so badly. They need results ASAP. And he's the most pro-ready pass-blocking tackle. I just don't feel he has the ceiling. I don't feel he has the ceiling where Ekwonu, you're banking on ceiling, and if he could get better, he could just be a mauler in the running game, and he could be better in the passing game with technique. Evan Neal, the same thing. You know, he has a nasty attitude at times. And Charles Cross, I really don't feel that way about him. But at the same time, if the team succeeds in a couple of years and Charles Cross is a solid tackle, maybe not Pro Bowl, but if he's a solid tackle, nobody's going to give two shits about whether his ceiling has been reached or not. So Charles Cross to the Giants. Now we go into the second round. Luis Sign, safety / defensive back out of Georgia with a 36th pick, 6'2", 199. And I was really, I would say, jumbled upon a couple of safeties I could choose here. Luis Sign was one of the only ones that visited with the Giants, and that's not the reason, but there was him, there was Daxton Hill, there was Jalen Petre, and there was also Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State. Now, NFL Network comps him as Anthony Harrison. I could see that. His strengths and his weaknesses. He's very good against the run. And the Giants, obviously, with the wink system, you need to be good against the run. His run defenses have been really good over the last couple of years. He terrifies receivers over the middle with a big hit ability, and I'll mention something about that in the weaknesses. He's good at diagnosing any ground game play, and he's a great tackler. As for his stats, let me take a look at them because you can't really look up Charles Cross stats. Let's take a look at Louis Sign out of Georgia. In terms of his stats this past year, and obviously he is a national champion because they won against Alabama. This past year, he had 1 interception, 2 tackles for a loss, 73 tackles in the total of 15 games. The prior year, 1 tackle for a loss, 52 tackles, and the year before that, with his freshman year at Georgia, 1 interception, 19 total tackles, and then he had 9 pass deflections this year. So it just shows he's very physical when in coverage, but also in coverage, going to the weaknesses, he can get out of position. The pad level can be high. So in terms of positioning, when he's trying to make a tackle, it sometimes can be literally hit or miss. He can hit the guy very hard, or it's going to be he misses it, and then the running back or the wide receiver gets yards after contact. So that's one thing he will need to clean up. And to be honest, I do have a guy next who has that same issue, and his combine speed to many doesn't really reflect his overall speed on the field. He ran a 4.37 at the combine, and a lot of people feel that's not really his speed. So Louis Sign out of Georgia, he's going to be one of the next safeties for the New York Giants. With that being said, you move on to one of my favorite guys in this draft, Brandon Smith, linebacker out of Penn State, 6'3", 250. With that being said, let's get to his strengths, and also let's get to the stats. I'm going to pull that up on the college football reference. In terms of his stats, he had a total of 2 sacks this year, 9 tackles for a loss, 81 tackles, which is the highest in his career. He's had 5 pass deflections this past year, 1 forced fumble in 12 games. The year before, which was basically a Mickey Mouse season, 8 games played, 8 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 pass deflection. And the year before that, didn't really play too much. 2 tackles for a loss, 14 tackles in 7 games. Now let's talk about Brandon Smith and just overall strengths and weaknesses like we always do. Excellent big hit ability. I do like this guy. Once again, why I picked him and why I think his upside could be good for the Giants. Great build for a linebacker with the long arms. Flashes could show that he could be a good blitzer in the NFL. And what does Wink like? He likes his linebackers, and what does he also like doing? He likes blitzing. So I see Brandon Smith as a fit. And one of the most important traits that this is why I picked Brandon Smith here, is he can cover seam tight ends and speed running backs. He has the ability to keep up with them. Now, on the other hand, there is a couple of weaknesses. He tries to attempt a big hit rather than a tackle at times. And once again, we were talking about Louis Sign with the big hit ability. It's a big hit or miss ability. And it seems like Brandon Smith has the same issue. He needs to improve his technique as a run defender, and he needs to be more comfortable working in traffic, whether it be in the running game or the passing game. But I really like Brandon Smith. I feel like he could be a starter eventually down the road. Once Blake Martinez is gone, maybe the Giants sign another veteran linebacker in the future, and he plays linebacker too. I feel like his upside could be a steal for the NFL level. So now we go to pick 81, and we finally try to seal off the tight end position. And why did I pick Cade Otton? He obviously visited with the Giants. The Giants were at his pro day. But with that being said, he can block. He can pass catch, he can block, and the Giants really don't have a blocking tight end at this moment. Ricky Seals-Jones not really good at it, more of a receiving tight end. Jordan Akins, he's a good receiver, a decent target, not a good blocker. So this past year, he didn't actually have the most yards. He did actually use that player eligibility thing because last year, I should say 2 years ago with the COVID pandemic in 2020, a lot of players opted out, but they were granted an extra year of eligibility. That's why you see guys coming out of this draft with 5 years or 4 years. It's just an extra year of playing, and obviously Cade Otton used that. They only played 4 games, or at least Cade Otton only played 4 games with Washington in 2020. But this past year, he had 28 receptions, 250 yards, and 1 touchdown. And his biggest year, 11 games, 32 receptions, 344 yards, 10.8 yards per reception, and 2 touchdowns. So he didn't have the biggest season this year, but 2 years ago, before the pandemic, he did. Let's talk about some positives, some negatives. 6'5", 247 strengths. He's a very good route runner. He's got good fundamentals as a blocker. He's very versatile, so he can line up in the slot, outside, and inline. Can run through arm tackles, so obviously you're looking for that yards after catch ability. He's not too big, but obviously you're looking for yards after the catch in a modern-day NFL offense. With that being said, he also catches well in traffic. Weaknesses: steady option in the passing game rather than dynamic. I mean, you can't expect much looking at his college numbers. They're not too great. You know, it's not like he led Washington with 987 yards and 12 touchdowns. That's not what you're getting from those college stats. So it does obviously give you the thing of, oh, he's going to just be a steady option. It's not going to be dynamic. Obviously, maybe he proves us all wrong and is the number 1 tight end for the Giants this year. Who knows? He had some drops away from his body, so obviously he will need to extend his arms and try a little bit more to get passes away from him, because you will have quarterbacks throw behind you or in front of you in the NFL. If you don't try to catch it, it's an interception, it's a turnover.